My name is Henry Barlow, and I've been living in Malaysia for the last 51 years. By training, I'm a chartered accountant. I suppose the first of the diprocarps that I planted is the Shorea platyclados, which is planted at the foot of the steps as you come up to this house. The Ginting Tea Estate is certainly part of the main forest spine. It sits on the watershed between the east and the west coast of Malaysia. When I first came up here in 1971, it was surrounded by forest, most of it primary, and in particular the forest across the valley just over there, which was a forest reserve. But unfortunately this was cleared for timber about 8 or 10 years ago, and since then has been settled by squatter smallholders to grow vegetables. When I first started, I was aware that a number of the Malaysian diprocarp species were becoming increasingly endangered by the almost total logging of lowland primary rainforest within the peninsula. Since then, and that was 30 years ago, I have become, of course, increasingly aware of the problems incurred by climate change and the need to preserve biodiversity. So what I've been doing for the last 30 years fits in very well with these new imperatives. And it seems sensible to use the land to try and plant up endangered forest species, particularly species of the family Diprocarpaceae, which in primarily lowland forest make up 70% odd of the vegetation. The vast majority of the trees that have been planted are native to Peninsular Malaysia. I was very lucky in that I was able to find planting material from other enthusiasts and nurseries here in the peninsula. During the COVID lockdown, after breakfast at about 10:30, I go out for a walk and generally meet up with Hock up at the back.
Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Simon Hawk. I'm Ginting Tea Estate Manager. I go around all our bigger trees to check and see if they are fruiting or flowering. If they are fruiting or flowering, my work also involves in taking photos of the fruits and also flowers and record the dates of first flowering and also the number of times they have flowered so far. Challenges, we have to face the pigs. Pigs come around and dig the plants and also kill them or dig them out. Put these bamboo sticks around just to prevent them from the pig attacks. And then we go around the trees to check for insects if there are any, and we collect caterpillars for his work.
It seems to vary very widely. The youngest occurrence of bearing fertile seeds has been recorded in a species called Havilandi, and that was 8 years after planting. We have other trees which were planted 20 or even 30 years ago, which have not yet, as far as we know, produced any seeds. So it's very variable, both within species and from species to species. Well, if it's an unusual and rare tree, we collect as many seeds as we can and we germinate them down by the packing shed and then plant up more trees here and distribute the surplus seedlings to other people who are interested in getting these species re-established. One of the parties with whom I've shared seeds of diprocarps is Angela Hijjas.
I'm Angela Hijjas, and we are now at Rimbundahan, my garden in Kuang, Selangor. My family has been living here for 30 years, and when we moved here, I decided I wanted to plant indigenous Southeast Asian species, about which I knew nothing. This, to me, represents the heart of my garden. It has been here for the 50 years we've owned the land, is a constant reminder of what we've lost, that the forest that was here before can be recreated with a little bit of ingenuity and hard work. It won't be the same. It spurs me on to achieve what I want to achieve. Recovering the land from a commercial and urban use. This land before was a plantation for coffee, then it became a fruit orchard. So I'm rewilding it in the sense that I'm planting things for birds, for bats, for snakes. The animals and birds, it's less diverse than when we came because of oil palm plantations in the neighbourhood and also urbanisation. Growing trees in a village situation does present challenges. Having people living right up against the fence is a little difficult because when the trees self-prune, the side branches drop off. And because they're tropical rainforest trees, they're hardwoods, the branches weigh a considerable amount and they just drop like a spear and penetrate right through the house. So far we haven't had any major accidents apart from our own houses and buildings which have had perforated roofs by branches falling in, and it gives one pause for thought about how to plan a tropical garden. I don't think I'll be able to get the 60 metre, 80 metre high canopies that you see in the rainforest. Half the time, I don't know what is going to grow how tall, how successful the planting will be, and you won't know for another 20 years whether it's going to be a very tall tree. I doubt very much my canopy is going to make much more than 100 feet, 30 metres or so, because I can't prune that high. When I started, I wasn't aware of the potential for ex situ conservation. When friends have given me saplings of species that you know that this species is extinct in the wild. What a responsibility. So I plant it, I look after it, I try. So we've got probably 10 species on site that have been given to me in that category. You don't have the habitat, you don't have the trees in situ, but along with all the botanical gardens in the tropical belt, you can offer some sort of refuge for trees. The first row of trees I put in along the front fence, which was to provide a barrier to stop traffic noise, and that was Shorea leprosula, which I got from FRIM, the Forest Research Institute. And they have done very well. They haven't grown that tall because they've branched at about 20 metres and they won't grow any taller, but the trunks are huge and they give me a great sense of achievement when I see them. The COVID lockdown actually was a blessing for me. I was suddenly curtailed of travelling and going anywhere, and my husband as well. My husband's an architect. I was working with Hijjas and following him around, family projects. I didn't have time in the garden to do things. Lots of things not tagged. Gets up to 2,400 odd. So that will go with the number tag on the coil. 2212 is here. It's a Dipterocarpus, Dipterocarpaceae vatica, Maingai, local name Razak, and it is in section E, 10 metres north of the northwest corner of the chicken coop. One only bought. Okay, so we can go and find the tree. Still no ID for this one, but it's got a tag. Right. Vertica maingai. Fortuitously, in 2021, during the lockdown, we had a mast season. That every 7 years or so, you'll get all the trees, all the dipterocarp trees, which I've been collecting, they all flower and fruit simultaneously. I had the time. I was walking around the garden. I could see the flowers dropped on the ground, and you make a mental note, okay, in 100 days, this will be fruiting. Come back and look.
My name is Intan. My background is in textile arts. We have a farm in Karak, and now we have a sustainable center in Klang.
I'm Abdul Razak, the other half, and like Intan says, we run the training center. What we do is we teach people about production of food mainly and sustainable practices as a whole.
Pile 9 is 66 because we had the inoculant,
66, great.
probably because of the dead chicken that we put in.
Our connection with trees has started way back, I guess, in school days and college. We are always going outdoors and into the nature, and we enjoy that. That was an exposure given to us by organizations like Greenpeace at that time.
The masting actually happens to forest plants. We collect them for a higher survival rate of the seeds. If not, only the fittest will survive.
This is almost 1 year.
I think jabatan pun tak boleh masuk.
In protected areas like natural jungles and forest reserves, the government has this kind of outline. No one should go in and out with seeds. So for us, it's only logical that we look at our own resources, our farm in
And our
Karak,
friends.
and our friends.
During the COVID-19 lockdown, interstate travel was not allowed, and our farm is in another state. We had to scramble for time because also the window for collecting seeds was coming to the tail end, so we just had to scramble for it.
And we managed to get permission
permit
to
from
travel.
the authorities.
I guess when the mission is big enough, we'll just have to find means and ways to do it.
There's a bigger bunch.
So,
This looks like that. Look at this.
yeah. 30 cm. Good, good, good. TLCLC, or known as Tropical Rainforest Conservation Center, and they taught us the fundamentals of seed collection, the proper way of doing it and identification, so that all the processes are intact. So typically the guideline is you take no more than 1,000 if the seeds are in abundance. Yeah? And now we're helping one another to plant the trees whenever and wherever we think we can. We were quite enthusiastic about not missing the bandwagon to collect the seeds, and we combined with other NGOs and individuals. We managed to collect a significant number of seeds, and we have germinated quite a fair bit too. We had in Bentong a couple of places that we collect, and of course we had friends in just the fringe of Kuala Lumpur, like Rimbun Dahan. Yours is so much better.
Pasir sikit lagi campur ke sana. In about August, we had masses of seeds coming down, and we germinated them, and that led to creating a nursery for mostly dipterocarps, but anything else that was also fruiting we collected.
I remember that when I was about 3 years old, at home in Northamptonshire in the UK, I used to chase cabbage white butterflies across the lawn. My mother was not the slightest bit interested in insects, and my father actively discouraged my interest. My father was interested in agricultural matters, but I think that he thought that the study of insects was not something worth bothering about. Insects form a very high proportion of the biodiversity on planet Earth at present, and the proportion of species of insects is infinitely higher than the proportion of the more photogenic birds or mammals. And if we are to preserve biodiversity in its entirety on planet Earth, it is absolutely essential that we do far more than we're doing at present to encourage the survival and success of insect species. Because if we lose insect species, we shall lose key pollinators, and we shall have a major food crisis on our hands in a very short time. And it is extremely worrying that at present there are observations worldwide, are borne out by my own observations here at Genting Tea Estate, that the numbers of insects are very, very rapidly dropping, both in terms of total numbers and numbers of species. We think the numbers are reducing, partly because of land clearance for intensive agriculture, and partly from excessive use of sprays such as herbicides and pesticides.
My name is Sofan bin Badruddin. My work here at Genting Tea Estate is to digitize and database Henry Barlow's moth and butterfly collection. So my daily routine, basically putting the Rothamsted trap twice a week. The Rothamsted light trapping is like any other light trap, but this trap had been initiated by Henry Barlow in the 1979-1980. And then he continued that in 2000 and 2001. And then this is the third time since 20 years ago. The Rothamsted light trapping exercise was done to see the change in moth population dynamics, especially in GTE, Genting Tea Estate, because back then quite a large forest compared to now had been cut down for smallholders and farmings and all that here. It's extremely good to have a forest here for the moths or the butterflies to stop by, because for butterfly difference because they are kind of strict in their diet and when they are caterpillar, but for moth most of them are polyphagy, meaning that they eat various food plants, like maybe from grass up to other tree. Including more trees will attract more moths come here and eat on the plants, and for the next generation to come back here and also breed, and the cycle continues. So that's why the healthy rainforest is important generally in insects all over the world actually. It's not just in Peninsular Malaysia. Yep. The moth that we get smaller in numbers compared from the previous two trapping exercise. But what is amazing that we got some few specimens that we never seen before in Peninsular Malaysia came to the trap. And also some species have been recorded in Thailand but never in Peninsular Malaysia, but then now using this trap. So that's very interesting. One interesting one, Dasara, likely grasshopper. This one is Agnathidoides.
It's interesting.
Might be interesting to find out about this Malay guy who studied Psychidae.
Yeah. The forest here at Genting Tea Estate will be taken over by the Southeast Asian Rainforest Research Project, which also conducts research at Danam Valley Field Centre in the east coast of Sabah.
Bentong is just behind the central spine of a peninsula, and we've got projects or locations identified. We're going to send the plants there for replanting in areas which are probably degraded land.
This is together with the other NGOs like TRCRC and MNS.
My main problem now is making sure that this is sustained over time when I'm dead, that my children take over and have the same sense of mission of protecting. And it's given me a purpose in life. And I'm forever grateful for that. And for what friends and colleagues have taught me, Malaysian Nature Society, Botanical Gardens people, they're ever willing to share information and share plants, and they know that I'm collecting, they know that I'm planting. I can't guarantee everything will survive, but we certainly try. And it's provided me with my life's work, so what more could you want?